welcome to Anni News, where we tell it as it is, unfiltered and uncensored. Today with us is the one and only Robert Spencer. He's the director of Jihad Watch, Shellman Fellow at the David Horowitz Freedom Center, author of 23 books. His latest, Did Muhammad Exist? And stay tuned, the next one coming, it's all about Quran. Hello, Robert.
Hi, Annie. Good to see you.
It is great to have you on again, and thank you for taking the time to be with us. I know I'm personally stalking jihadwatch.org because you are reporting, as always, non-stop, telling us all about what's happening with jihad going on globally. But I want to start with here in America. 2 days ago, General McKenzie did this lovely video of announcing that the war is over, we're done, the last plane took off, and we are out of Afghanistan. But also he did mention that they didn't manage to get out as many Americans as they wanted, but he knew if they stayed another 10 days, they could basically do a better job and get more people out. But as he said, that would still make some people disappointed. So what's the point? Robert, what was the rush? Why did they not stay another 10 days to get Americans out?
I don't think they cared. This is all just window dressing, what McKenzie is saying, because they prioritized getting Afghans out. They committed to bringing 30,000 Afghans to the United States, and it was they who got on the planes, not the Americans. This is because the Democratic Party is committed to the idea that immigrant groups will vote Democratic. And so they got 30,000 new Democratic voters. They didn't care about the Americans stranded there.
Unbelievable. And then, of course, it was published again on Jihad Watch. There are videos of Taliban members walking into our planes and checking them out, walking into the bases at the Kabul airport, celebrating with gun firing and, Allahu Akbar and all that good stuff. But somehow Biden administration to this moment is still claiming that Taliban is, the new Taliban is moderate and they are good and we might be able to work with them. Where is this disconnect? Is it purposely? Is it that Biden is really that stupid to believe such a narrative?
Biden may really be that stupid, but I don't think the people behind him are. Biden, sure, there's nobody home, but the people who run Biden, they just are trying to fool the American people into complacency. They know the Taliban hasn't changed. They know, for example, the Taliban just murdered a folk singer for the crime of playing music because music is forbidden in Islam. They don't want you to know that music is forbidden in Islam. That would make people think there's something wrong with Islam. And so they ignore the whole incident, or they say that it was a few extremists who did this, but the Taliban in general is moderate. There's absolutely no basis to think that the Taliban is anything other than what it always has been, and that is a Sharia group committed to imposing Islamic law. We know what Islamic law is like. All we have to do is look at the Islamic Republic of Iran or at Saudi Arabia or at any of the other Sharia states, and we see that it's pretty much the same everywhere where Sharia is implemented. Women are oppressed, non-Muslims are oppressed. The country is a human rights basket case that oppresses its own people, and Afghanistan is going to be no different.
Exactly. And also, again, following Afghanistan International Channel and jihadwatch.org, I can't help but to feel like in last 5 days, somehow the global jihad has really started to skyrocket. Muslims in many different countries are starting to attack, kidnap, kill. A recent, very recent post on Jihad Watch talked about a family being arrested in Arizona, I believe, for trying to kidnap and kill someone of honor killing. Am I correct on that?
A young woman who had a non-Muslim boyfriend. And so her relatives and her extended family there in Arizona plotted to have her kidnapped and murdered. And this is not the only thing that's happened over the last few days. Another one was in Garland, Texas, a couple of days ago. A Muslim ordered a Lyft, the taxi service. And when the driver arrived, he shot the driver dead and drove her car to the police station where he opened fire and was killed there by police. This was in Texas just a few days ago. The jihadis are emboldened all over the world. They see that Allah has granted them a great victory, and they want to get in on it as well.
Back real quick, back to Afghanistan and Biden administration. Also, again, reported on Jihad Watch, pallets of cash were found somehow, just out of the blue. Can you tell us about that? How did it get there, or do we even know how the money got there?
The Biden administration offered to pay the Taliban for its services, and apparently there was payment that was made. There was an extraordinary video, actually, that I saw. I haven't put it, I should put it on Jihad Watch, but it's not there right yet, that showed Taliban jihadis walking around amid all this American material, various kinds of weaponry and things, and they come to a table where there are stacks of $100 bills, and not just stacks of $100 bills, but stacks of the stacks, going on for table after table after table. There must have been hundreds of millions of dollars there. And they were just picking up as much of it as they wanted and putting it in their pockets. American dollars, $100 bills. This all came from the Biden administration, certainly in order to try to pacify the Taliban and get them to go easy on us.
You started your answer with they were trying to pay Taliban for their services. What services? Killing Americans and torturing women?
I know, it's absurd. The Taliban was asked by the Biden administration to guard the airport and to help the Americans secure it. Now, none of this was necessary because the Taliban itself, if you want to make a deal with the Taliban, they offered a deal. They offered to allow the Americans to have control over Kabul, but Americans would have had to assume the responsibility to secure Kabul at the time when the Afghan National Army collapsed. And the Biden administration said, no, all they needed was the airport, and they would trust the rest of the city to the Taliban. And of course, we see how that worked out.
Wow, it is. I don't know if it's sad, embarrassing. It's so many things I could use, words I could use here. But let me ask you this. Well, we all know, at least me and you, we know that Islamic Republic of Iran's regime has been the biggest supporter, financially supporter of Islamic terror. Would it be safe to say within last 2 weeks, America is kind of standing right about the same level as far as financing through weaponry or pallets of cash of Islamic terrorism?
Yeah, you look at $85 billion worth of weaponry and materiel given to the Taliban. That's an extraordinary gift. That's going to be financing jihad terror, aiding jihad terror around the world for who knows how many years to come. People say, oh, they don't know how to use it. Okay, great. There are plenty of people who do know how to fly the airplanes and all that. Chinese, Iranians, and so on. And the Taliban will get help. And also some of that material we've already seen moving toward Iran. And I think it's likely to show up in Hezbollah or Hamas in their armories. These things, the consequences of this will be felt for generations.
Wow, okay. It's not like this isn't getting dark enough, but I saw a video, forgive me as I don't remember, it was one of the Congress members who said, we are in worse position with Taliban being in power. We're in worse position than we were in 2001 because one, we have no bases in the region. Two, we have a Sleepy Joe in White House. And three, we have been very programmed to this terror attacks, Islamic Jihad attacks. So if Taliban was about to, let's say, attack us come September 11 again, we would be in worse standing than we were in September 11 of 2001. What do you think of that?
That's absolutely true, yeah. Look, September 11th, 2001 was a tremendous victory for the forces of jihad. The American presence of Muslims has grown exponentially since then, and their power and influence has grown. People are afraid to offend them and afraid of committing what is called Islamophobia, which is essentially any opposition to jihad violence and Sharia oppression. And they are able to do anything they want, really, have infiltrated into the highest levels of the government. So another attack like that, and it could be all over, really. What would we possibly do in response at this point with a woke military that is more concerned about weeding out supposed white supremacists from the military than in preparing a coherent plan to leave Afghanistan? How would they fight if we were challenged on that level again?
That's a good question. With all the weapons we have handed over and all the trainings that we've been giving them for 20 years, yeah, I literally, I want to say, I don't want to think about it, but it's our job to think about it. Let's conclude here. Again, very recently, Jihad Watch published a video, a piece on a video of an imam in Colorado. I'm not going to even, spoil the fun. Let's take a look at what he has to say, and then I want to have your take on it.
In Afghanistan, who the country which is under the rule of Taliban now, forcing the women to wear the hijab and so forth. So they are employing this to be anti-freedom, anti-this, anti-that, and as if Islam is a bad thing. Let me set certain records straight here. I love, and every Muslim should love, for the deen of Allah, the religion of Allah, to be established in earth.
What say Robert Spencer?
Well, this is Karim Abu Zaid. He's a respected member of his community. He's taken for granted, as is every imam in the United States, to be a moderate. And yet he's saying the Taliban is right to impose the hijab, and that every Muslim ought to be happy that we're seeing the deen, the religion of Islam, being implemented. And so here we have a very clear statement from an imam in the United States saying that the Sharia ought to be imposed and women ought to be subjugated, and this is the will of Allah, and every Muslim should be in favor. Anybody who really has any real sense of what Islam is all about ought to take note of this. The FBI, the CIA, the Department of Homeland Security, all the rest of those ought to be taking note of this and realizing maybe some of these people we've assumed are moderate are not really all that moderate, and we need to investigate this in its full implications. But of course, none of that is going to happen.
Very true. Okay. I know you'll always tell the truth, and I know I have actually learned from you. It's not over until it's over, and it's not over yet. But I'm running out of ideas, Robert, as to what to do. What do we do here? What's the next step for us?
Well, there's no doubt it becomes all the more urgent all the time to get rid of this corrupt political class. And so probably the first thing we have to do is work for every last election integrity initiative that we possibly can and try to prevent them from cheating, because they can cheat, they will cheat, they do cheat. And if we can do that, then we have a shot. But the whole group of them in Washington, they need to be swept out. That could happen in 22, that could happen in 24, but only if we have free and fair elections, which is not certain right now.
And I think everybody should continue checking out jihadwatch.org, because at least you know what's coming when you get informed. Also, you want to go get Robert Spencer's latest book, Did Muhammad Exist? Robert, tell us about the book, why it's so important more than ever for everyone to read it, and where do we get it?
Well, Did Muhammad Exist is a historical inquiry into the obscure origins of Islam and all the questions that arise when you try to look back at what exactly happened and what Muhammad of history was really like. You find that the stories that Islamic tradition tells about him don't really have a very strong historical basis at all. Now, this is not just a parlor game or an intellectual question, because, for example, Shabir Ali, an Islamic apologist, made a video supposedly refuting the book. You can watch that on YouTube. It's kind of silly. He just says it's fringe and mainstream scholars don't think this. And I think, well, the mainstream's been wrong before, pal. But in any case, Shabir Ali says if Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, does not exist, then there's no point in being a Muslim. There you have it.
Where do we get the book?
It's at Amazon, at Barnes & Noble. If you still have a brick and mortar bookstore in your neighborhood, ask them to order it. And you can get it at jihadwatch.org as well.
Perfect. From one Islamophobe to another, thank you so much for telling the truth. Thank you for not giving into their narrative. And I personally appreciate everything you are doing, Robert. And
Thank you
please
very much,
keep
Annie.
up Jihad Watch forever.
Okay, you got a deal.
Thank you. And to our audience who stayed with us, thank you so much for being with us. Make sure to share this video, then head to jihadwatch.org, subscribe to their newsletter because they are being heavily shadow banned on social media. With that being said, stay safe and goodbye.